into Europe and the United States from the Middle East, desperately trying to escape the horrors of ISIS, in many cases. But George Soros, the billionaire financial guy and friend to Hillary Clinton, says, hey, that crisis, it's the new normal. And according to a memo from his organization, quote, the refugee crisis is opening new opportunities for attracting new donors and reforming migration at the global level. What does that mean? Caitlin Collins is a reporter for the Daily Caller. She joins us from our nation's capital. Caitlin, what does that mean? What's George Soros trying to do with the immigration crisis?
Good morning. Okay, so George Soros is this foreign-born left-wing guy who essentially wants to change the nature of our country. And in this data dump, one of the memos was about the refugee crisis. And they made 3 points. They think that they've been successful at influencing immigration policy across the world. They think that the refugee crisis is an opportunity to continue doing so. And they think the refugee crisis is the new normal. And George Soros is this guy who is a staunch advocate for open borders. He wants people to be able to go wherever they want, whenever they want, for whatever reason. And for him, he sees this immigration policy, this crisis, as a vehicle to further his immigration agenda and his open borders policy.
So, Caitlin, what ultimately is his agenda? Just that people can walk around the globe without getting stopped at the border somewhere? Or is he trying to make money off of it? Because he is, after all, in the business of making money.
Exactly. This is a man who's made billions off other people's economies failing. And he sees this crisis as an opportunity where he can benefit. And instead of seeing it from a humanitarian perspective, he sees it from a business one. Okay.
And we know this because of some of these leaked documents that now are embarrassing him and Hillary and the Democrats and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about how he is, according to these leaked documents, trying to manipulate the media.
He wants to manipulate the media by funding certain organizations to put his message out there, and they'll suggest stories to journalists. They wanted to pay for journalists to go live in Ukraine and write stories that they thought were good and productive and furthered their agenda. But then if the journalists wrote stories that were counterproductive to what they wanted to achieve, they would veto them. And I think this is a problem that Americans should be aware of because he's so close to Hillary Clinton. You know, he had a lot of influence over her when she was Secretary of State. He's donated millions of dollars to her campaign so far this election season. And his son had dinner with Tim Kaine recently. And I think that the Democratic Party needs to answer questions about this guy who they're so embedded with.
Sure. We know that Hillary Clinton has supported the Black Lives Matter movement. We also know, according to these leaked documents, apparently he supports some of these efforts that started with Ferguson, right, for social justice. Explain that.
Right. His Open Society Foundation has given over $500,000 to Black Lives Matter because they want to be able to support Black Lives Matter as it grows. They're worried, you know, that they won't know how to grow properly, and they want to help them dismantle structural inequality. That was in one of the memos that was released in the data dump.
What does that mean?
They basically want to help Black Lives Matter further their agenda. And I think it's an issue also that the Democratic Party needs to address because so many Democrats have openly endorsed Black Lives Matter. And now that we see that this guy who is funding Hillary Clinton is also funding Black Lives Matter, that's a problem, and that's something that Americans should be aware of.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Caitlin Collins from the Daily Caller, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Great. Who knew that? Meanwhile, coming up, remember that $400 million